And that one is being underutilized right now, but it has a lot of promise. Another one's called Dribble. Again, that's specifically made for illustrators and for people in the graphic space. And Behance. Now, Behance in itself was bought by LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and that's how they integrated into their presentation format. But Behance is another area for a complete area for you to present your work in a portfolio area on digitally online. So these are some of the ones that I would stress. Now, the strategy is really important in this, and when you think about you present your work, but then selling your work is more important, even more important. I mean, presenting your work really well, but selling it is really the key. And that's where you have to get into this idea of how you hook on people purchase from you, from your sites or from those social sites directly into your bank account. And this is a thing you have to really be thinking about. Like, you know, if you're using PayPal for business, because all of this now becomes tax deductible as a person who's self-employed. And the reason I'm saying that is not just because of that, but from business perspective, you know, because when you're taking in money and eventually you're going to have to record that, but also you want to deduct it out. So all these things I've mentioned to you are completely free. They cost nothing. But when you get a PayPal account or you get any of these other kind of app accounts, you know, there are fees involved, but those fees should be tax deductible to you. And that's an important point to make on that. So I hope those kind of answered, but I hope people, if we're recording, I hope we're recording right now. Are we recording?
We are.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So everybody needs to kind of look at those. Also going to be in there so they can review them afterwards about each one of those formats that I'm specifically talking about specifically for artistic, you know, visual creative. That's what those are those. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you touched on a lot of important stuff. I think especially for artists who weren't sort of doing this professionally before, but maybe just attending events, now they kind of have to think about, all right, well, now I got to get my taxes involved and I need to, you know that information and I need to be well-versed in that. So if that's something that you offer too, that would be great to touch on later.
Yeah, I'll do a little follow-up on that because I'm talking about banking here, and this is when people talk about making money. I, in general, don't use large banks for my business services. I only use large banks for one reason, and I used to travel internationally, and that is for currency exchanges. Okay, so if I may use a Chase account, I only use it for that reason. I use everything through credit unions. So I would advise people to use and utilize credit unions right now for their business accounts. We timed out.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. So I guess we'll move on to the next question, and that's, in your experience, have you found that there's a sort of a proven formula for advertising on
You have an internet issue.
and Facebook and Etsy and like?
Did everybody get the question?
I couldn't hear.
Yeah,
those
you cut it.
or
You cut it. That's okay. I think his question.
Maybe he could put in the questions in the chat.
Yeah, you could do that either way. I think he's having an internet issue.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think he's back now. Yeah.
Cool. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
I'll let you repeat that. Yeah.
Sure. I'll repeat it and then I'll also put it in the chat. So is there a proven formula for advertising on platforms like Instagram? And is it different from Facebook and Etsy and even just having a personal business website?
Big question. You know, as a general rule, it's a good practice to invest in video ads in Facebook and photo ads in Instagram, you know, as your best buy-in, right? It is a good practice in those two arenas. However, Instagram right now has something more powerful than Facebook does, which it has e-commerce ability straight. And that began to integrate into it. So everybody should be looking at how they do an e-commerce actual site for Instagram. You know, they should be thinking about how they can sell Instagram into that, because they have the format to actually do direct sales now into Instagram. So everybody who's in a creative arena should be having a format in Instagram to sell directly their products and services out of it. In the actual ad space, I'm in favor of guerrilla marketing before spending money. You know, and anybody that's worked with me knows that I'm like that. I'm a guerrilla marketer. I'm a person that deals with helping people without them spending great amounts of money, right? And so I'm a believer in building a large network around things before you spend money on them. So I'm bigger on building networks into that. Now, when you look at your website, here's what I view websites like, because I've been in business development for a long time in e-commerce. I think they're beautiful brochures, but if they have e-commerce to them, then there's an ROI. So you may spend money to do a website, or even if you do your own, it's sweat equity, right? So in order to get your return on that investment, that sweat equity or the money you put out to do a website, you have to get money back from the website, right? So that's where the focus comes in, that you have to really be focusing on Instagram, link to the website, using it through Instagram's e-commerce space. That's a free e-commerce space to you. I hope that answered your question.
Awesome, yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the next question. So with your list of clients that you've worked with, what digital practices have you seen them using since quarantine that have yielded a pretty substantial financial return? Like, they're able to keep up with their bills, they can put food on the table still, all through sort of what they began to use during quarantine for their practice.
Okay, well, I see them using a three-pronged strategy. And that three-pronged strategy is the use of LinkedIn with video conferences together. And so they're using LinkedIn, and then they're making a video conference out of it, and then they're turning that into a webinar like we have right now, or something in their ways. But they're fooling it through the LinkedIn space first, then bringing it out into a video space, and then making a webinar. Okay, and the reason I say that is because you can get access to the corporate business sector faster in LinkedIn than you can in any other social space. It's the only social space you'll get access to the corporate space. And that's what I mean money space. People that can actually spend money and have readily available money. It's one of the only social spaces you can do that in. There are a couple others. You can do that in Twitter as well, but not as efficiently. Yeah, so it's really that three-prong approach. It's being done in LinkedIn, it's being done through video, and then it's being hooked into video webinars. And then the conversions coming out of the webinar for selling products and services, or for them knowing what you have. And that has been one of the most effective returns. So at this moment in post-COVID-19.
Interesting. Do you think that's specific to like an audience? Like you say that in LinkedIn, you kind of have access to the corporate world, and they could in turn finance whatever kind of work you're trying to get financed. But do you think all artists are sort of reaching for that type of audience? Would that be specific to just I don't know, like visual artists versus performers or musicians?
Well, some people confuse what LinkedIn is. They think it's a resume. It's not. Creative people should not be using LinkedIn as a resume. It's not about getting recruited for a job. It's about getting access to people that can get you access to things. That's why you should be using LinkedIn. So for example, what I mean by that is like, if any of these applications I talked to you about, you could go directly to their higher ups in their corporate space, and you could get direct advisement and consultant from them right at their corporate space. You cannot do that anywhere else. Like you could get access to their partnership level, their corporate level, their webinar level. You could get access to their vice presidents and direct higher ups. You can access the board of directors. And what I've just said right here is extremely powerful, because these people, they make up the deals. They make it up. They're making things up as we go right now. And what they're doing big time right now in the middle of this COVID-19 is they're merging services. So you saw Zoom come in, right? And then Zoom took over everything. And in the entertainment space, we had Netflix become a billionaire company, richer than almost any oil company in the world right now in the last month. And that's huge. I mean, it's a huge company now, right? And what we're seeing is this shift that's really dramatic going on in the entertainment spaces online and the creative spaces online that is not, you need to tap, and you need to tap it quick because it's going to explode at a level that we've never seen before. And that's because there's so much money moving in the background to buy out these. So what I was saying is that Facebook all at once saw the competitor in Zoom. And so what they said, we'll do this app, we'll put 50 people online, unlimited time. right? And you're going to see this across the board. All of these apps are going to go into mergers and buyouts.
Yeah.
And when I talk about these applications, I talk about them like corporations and businesses, because that's what they are. They're money-making people. They want to make a lot of money. And they're making mass fortunes right now, by the way. Where everybody's talking about depression, they're making mass fortunes. So I think the last prediction was the 6 top e-commerce companies made $50 billion in 1 week. $50 billion in 1 week, while they were talking about the Great Depression going in the United States.
Wow.
So, I mean, every artist right now has a massive opportunity to actually have their own webinars, their own online e-learning spaces, and their own e-commerce sites. And that's where they need to be directing this space at, in this current area of physical distancing. And when it comes back, you get both. So if you get good at this and you get back to the physical space, you get both.
Nice. Yeah. It's awesome. Great. I guess we can move on to the final question. Since we
Thank
have
you,
time.
TJ.
Yeah, of course.
The question I have for Shaun is, as you may know, I'm a music artist in the band Poison the Darkness. 2 of my bandmates are with us tonight. And my question is from the point of view of not only a musician, but we could say gallerist, nonprofit leader, arts business owner, really anybody. How do we stand out in this sea of excellent competitors?
You know, there's some things that are the same before this crisis that are still the same. And there are 3 things. Innovation and creativity can allow you to remake your life. So the creative sector right now has an advantage over everybody else, to be honest with you. They know how to adapt, they know how to be creative, and they know how to make things up out of their minds. And while the other people are in a state of what I'm going to do, they're going to make up new ideas. Okay. And those are the type of people that are going to win right now. You have to be flexible. Okay. The other thing is that your social commerce, that means your ability to build a creative network around you of support, is more valuable than the money. It's way more valuable than money, because you can get anything through it. You know, there's nothing you can't get it. So the third thing that everybody has to be thinking about is strategic partnerships right now. They need to be looking closely around them at all the other professionals and say, who can I do a joint workshop with right now? Who can I do a video conferencing right now with? Who can I talk to right now about advice on these particular issues I'm going through? And begin to have constant joint partnerships. You know, that's where you're going to win. You're going to win when you do the sharing economy, which was before the pandemic, and it's bigger now. The sharing economy is going to be so much more important in post-COVID-19 world than it ever has been before. And what I mean by that is, if you're a creative, you don't have to work just with other creatives. You can work with other people in the business sectors or the nonprofit sectors or the museum sectors or the artistic sectors that are outside of your realm to create something cool and a hybrid. And this is the secret right now for you getting known. This is how you'll get known, because you're going to get to leverage their networks against your own. Right? And so what I'm looking right now is, and there's an arts for nonprofits, there's museums right now that want to actually sell through their space, and they may sell your work for you through their network if you're going to use your network to leverage their knowledge so people can know about those things they can do with them virtually, right? So that they get an advantage with you when you have the network, because you have to think of yourself as a media mogul now. You're all media moguls, right? And you all have this talent and these tools right now to be a media mogul. And it's an area right now that it's the most important thing you're going to do in your career right now, is to build those connections and actually not be afraid to make those strategic alignments with people and do those strategic work with them. Create a win-win. I'm not even talking about making investment money with people. I'm talking about creating win-wins with people, so that you're using the win-win factor for yourself. And that can go into all different realms. It doesn't have to just be the creative realm. It can go into all different realms right now, because everybody right now is eager to work with you. And what's even bigger right now that I'm seeing at a rate I've never seen in my entire career is the interconnectivity right now of high-level people. I can get access to people faster than I've ever been able to get access to for in my life. I have never been able to get access this fast in my entire career. Everybody and their mother is online, okay? So the opportunity right now is really huge. It's really big. It's like, don't sit down, start running. This is not the time to sit. This is the time to run.
Great, thank you so much, Shaun. That's very insightful. And I'm looking at the time right now, it's 7:22. We're doing fairly well on time, and because we are, I am going to take one question. I see we have about 8 comments or so in the chat. I'm going to take one question. I wish we could take more, but we did reach out to friends, as I said earlier, and others in our networks and asked in advance. And that's how TJ and I came up with our 4 questions. So I will take one more, and let me check out what's in the chat right now. Let's see. I'm going to take this question from Sheila. It says, do LinkedIn contacts tend to accept your connection request if they do not personally know you or have a shared contact?
That's a big question. I mean, I'm well known for LinkedIn, but I use LinkedIn as a data intelligence space, not as a software. I'm going to preface this question because I use LinkedIn as a search engine for corporations and people, and mostly corporations, not people. Corporations and then people inside them. So it's a search engine, and it is not a social media. It's a Google. It's a search engine for corporations and people inside them. That's the purpose of it, okay? And the reason that I'm using that is because I want to get fast access to the corporate sector, okay? So your question around is about optimization. There's initially an optimization. You need to have a complete and massive story set up on LinkedIn that looks really, you know, like the most beautiful story you've ever told of your life. It is the most beautiful creative story of your life. It is the entire creative story of your life. All of you've done, everybody you've worked with, everybody you went to school with, and how your education is and what you love and what you like. It's a very intensive, like if you were to print my master profile, which hit 30,000 in 2004, it would be 26 pages long. Not 2 pages, not 1 page. That's not a resume. That is a search engine optimization to be found. Okay, so that's the other thing you're talking about. So will the people connect? Very important thing I'm going to say right now. The social leverage is how people get access to money. So it's social leverage. Okay. But when Facebook was invented, the reason it got so much money invested in it is because it got inside the elite colleges in the East Coast. It first hacked into Harvard's computer systems and then went down, up and down the East Coast and got inside of all the elite colleges, therefore getting hooked into the children of the wealthiest in America. That's the reason he got funded, my friends. That's the reason Facebook became $1 billion business. He had already had social influence. And so what you're talking about here through the whole entire, not just LinkedIn, but through the whole entire social space is you're building, okay, influence through that space. And so you want to target a company or industry, you know, in creative space. You want to get inside of it, and you want to get as many people as you possibly can before you approach it. And so I might target the entire Sony Entertainment, for example. I might target the whole company, and then I'll approach people inside the company to work with them. Since they can see that I'm already connected to 30 people at Sony Entertainment, they're going to say yes every time. Every time they're going to say yes, because this is what the world is in the corporate sector. It's about social influence. And so even in your own life, it's about social influence. That's how you get access to, you know, information through people. It's not, you don't do business with inanimate objects, you do it with other people, right? So you have, in order for you to increase business, you have to increase your access to people.
Thank you for that question, Sheila, and thank you for the insights, Shaun. I know we covered a lot of points in a brief time, and that was purposeful. Art Unites plans to host more workshops like this that will last about 40 minutes or an hour, where we will dive deeper into some of the points that Shaun made tonight. We hope that you found all of this helpful, insightful, and inspirational for you to take off running, as Shaun said, not walking, but running with these tools. Many of them are free. So now you have that as leverage. As he said, everyone here is influential, creative in problem solving. So we hope that you will use all of tonight's information. If you have questions beyond what we covered here, feel free to ask at the email that was sent earlier through the event page, or just contact me through Facebook or Instagram at Art Unites. Again, we will delve into some of these points deeper at a later time through different Art Unites workshops and classes. With that, I'd like to thank my friends TJ and Shaun so much for making this workshop possible.
Yes,
You
thank you.
did great service to people, great service.
Thank you, Shaun. We really appreciate that, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, and stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Bye.